Welcome, everyone, and thank you for spending some time with us today. This webinar, called The Net Worth Secrets of the Wealthy, lasts around 35 minutes, and it gives you an overview of our company. My name is Frank Orsino, and I'm honored to be the President and CEO of Net Worth Solutions. Whoever invited you today cares a lot about you. 13 years ago, my best friend and colleague to this day invited me to one of these presentations. I was a busy physical therapist at the time. I was commuting 4 or 5 hours a day minimum and not making ends meet. I realized I was one of the 300 million Americans who never learned how money worked. I was working with very successful doctors, surgeons. They also didn't know how money worked. This presentation goes on weekly at our local offices around the country. The business presentation meeting, called the BPM, is where our guests come to hear about our mission and learn for the first time how money works really, and our associates get trained. Well, that's me. Our mission is to build net worth for families. Wherever we go today, someone's talking about money. They want to talk to you and I about making more money, keeping more money, saving more money, and money happens to be the currency where we purchase our freedom. Today, our presenter is James Catledge. He is the author of this presentation and our system. James has an unparalleled track record of building leaders in the financial industry. I'm going to turn this presentation over to Mr. Catledge. Mr. Catledge.
Frank, thanks so much. Boy, nice to be with you. It's clear to me we've got people from all across the country tuned in this morning, and I'm really delighted to be your presenter. I don't get a chance to do this very much. We've got such qualified leaders throughout the country who do these presentations in local offices every single week. Way back, and I say way back, it's going to date me, but 23 years ago, I became a licensed financial advisor. And I was fortunate enough at the time to be trained by a master in our field. And I can tell you that today my life is completely different because of the role that mentor played in my life. The presentation you're going to see today is very much like the one I attended 23 years ago. You know, as I look back and I look at the presentation and each of the slides that you're going to see today, it dawns on me that the solutions, the strategies, and most of the products have completely changed. Over time, the financial services industry has changed all of these things, the strategies, the solutions, and the products. But one thing's remained constant: human nature. And I want to talk to you about why that matters. Human nature is a funny thing. Human nature tells us that ultimately it's quite predictable how our lives will end up. Very few of us do anything about the trends that human nature says about each of us. I hope today that as you listen for the next half hour, that you'll be tuned in to how this presentation and ultimately our business model could make that kind of difference in your life. I consider it one of the great blessings of my life to have built and designed a life while having the opportunity to serve others. I look back, I've got 6 unbelievable children. Those children today, I've had the opportunity to not miss a birthday. I've had the opportunity by owning and building a business to be there when they needed me, to watch them. I've got one headed to college right now, and he may not be so excited about the fact I've been there every step of the way, but I can tell you as a dad, it's mattered to me. We have too many dads missing birthday parties in our country. We have too many mothers missing the formative years of their children's lives. And that's not because they want to miss birthdays and miss those growing up years. It's because they really don't know another way. I want you to know that you can make big money and make a difference and be where you need to be and want to be for the rest of your life. Those are choices that you and I make once we have the information. Today, we're going to talk about that information. Let me introduce you to how we do it. Ultimately, today's presentation, as Frank said, is called the Net Worth Secrets of the Wealthy. They're not secrets because they're hidden. They're secrets because most of us simply don't know them. No matter how high the education is, no matter how long we spend in college, we simply are not taught the basics of how money works. Net Worth Solutions is a company, and you can go to our website, networthsolutions.info, is dedicated 100% to educating the American family on how money works. If those families decide to be in business with us, great, we need your help. If those families decide that they would like us to help them build their net worth, fantastic. We're completely qualified and licensed to do that. But ultimately, there's a real stark reality that's taking place in America today, and I'd like to begin with that point. 75% of U.S. households are 3 paychecks away from bankruptcy. Take away your next 3 paychecks. Just pretend they don't come in. What happens in your family without the next 3 paychecks? For most of you on the telephone, watching this webinar today, both mom and dad are busy in the workplace. Remove the next 3 paychecks and tell me what happens. The average family carries close to $12,000 in credit card debt from month to month. The credit card industry refers to those people as revolvers. The folks who pay off the credit card bill every month, pay it in full, those are called deadbeats. And that's the way the credit card industry refers to us. I want you to know that financial services as an industry is not necessarily designed to help you build net worth. They're great at creating products. They're not so good at developing strategies that meet you where you are. And that's where Net Worth Solutions makes a difference. 40% of U.S. families spend more than they earn. Where else can you do that in the world? That's why the average net worth of the American family is negative $15,000. That's taking away all of the liabilities, putting in all of the assets, and we're still below zero. The richest nation in the world, think of it, the richest nation on the planet. We're so proud to be the ideal, the light on the hill for the world to look at. Yet, when you get right down to each American family, there's some serious problems that you are struggling with. Consumers are spending at an increasing rate, twice the rate of their income. So we simply, and this has been the case for 25 years, since I've been doing this, these are the human nature things that have not changed. The typical minimum monthly payment is 90% interest and 10% principal. These are crisis level numbers, and they are affecting you every day. Most mom and dads come home out of their commute trying to figure out exactly what to do to change it. 65% of all credit card accounts receive only the minimum payment. So let's talk about what happens with debt. As we go through the presentation, you're going to see me highlight what we do for families as a firm. You're also going to see me mix in why we would like you to consider working with us and doing this as your career. I just absolutely believe what we do matters so much. You can make a great living. You can frankly make a fortune helping and serving others and ultimately design your life. But right at the heart of this presentation is what we do for families, which is build net worth. Look at the faded out words on this slide. They're there for a reason. Crime, divorce, depression, ill health. Those are all byproducts of a family or an individual that's in serious debt. The truth about buy it now and pay later. Think about that idea. I grew up in the layaway era where my mother went into Sears and Roebuck, gave money to the cashier, and said, please set aside those jeans and shirt for my son. And every time she got a paycheck, she went back in and made more payments down toward layaway. When she had made enough payments to purchase the item, they would go back in the back and hand her the item she purchased. It was impossible to get into this kind of trouble with credit cards because the society just didn't support it. A credit card today with $8,000 balance, if you just make the minimum payment, it's going to take over 25 years to pay it off. By the time you pay it off, you'll have paid over $23,000 for that same level of debt. That's a serious problem. So let's think about this. 3% of American families know and understand what it takes to prepare for retirement. That's a catastrophic statistic. 97%, which includes most people on the telephone today, do not know or have the skills yet necessary to be prepared for retirement. I can also tell you, having worked with thousands and thousands of would-be advisors, 97% of those folks are ill-prepared for success and the habit success requires. The role I play today in the company, and Frank as the president has asked me to play it, is I get a chance to mentor great people who would like to run a system to run their own business. So I get a chance to be a mentor, kind of what happened to me. And I get to play a role in the lives of those that associate with us and affiliate with us and would like to become successful advisors. I teach them how to build their own company, and I just love it. I mean, it's just one of the great, frankly, joys of my life is to watch that happen for people. Take a look at what happens to those 3%. Ultimately, they simply, the 3% know what to do. They've been taught it by their parents usually. Some have read it in books, but for the most part, it's cultural. They've been taught it in their homes. And no matter how much college you get, no matter which economic classes you take, the school systems have removed the basic finances. You can go back historically and look at the old finance books of the 1950s and 60s and how to balance a checkbook. All the basics of how money worked was in the books, where our kids, frankly, my generation and older, was raised with this type of information. It's been removed. It's not there anymore. We're teaching people about global economics. We're teaching kids about macroeconomics, geopolitical issues. We're teaching about environmental issues. We've completely removed common sense from our children's school books. I want you to take a look at this slide. This is built to dispel a myth in diversification. If you look at this chart for a second, mutual funds, stocks, 401ks, IRAs, bonds, savings accounts, CDs. This is what most financial advisors today would teach you is diversification. I want to show you what real diversification looks like, and there's some subtle differences. Life insurance, big part of your diversified portfolio. You need to evaluate what type of insurance you have. Most people in America have purchased insurance because a lot of insurance people out there selling life insurance. But most we find when we sit down and put a second set of eyes on their plan, we find that they own the wrong type of insurance. And usually term, that's become a very inexpensive insurance solution in America today. And I can point at the reasons at another time, but ultimately, the industry will tell you 96% of all term policies never, ever, ever pay out. There's no death benefit. They don't pay. And the reason they don't pay is not because it's some scheme. It's simply because by the time the term expires, there's no death that's occurred. If you were going to die within the term, then the cost of insurance would be so high you wouldn't pay for it. And so insurance companies know that's a cash cow, and so they sell lots and lots and lots and lots of it for very, very cheap, knowing that they'll never have a liability or a risk associated with it. They can just sell it and it's free cash flow. Back to diversification, the stock market, stocks, mutual funds, 401ks, IRAs, mutual funds, all of those areas are stock market, and of course, that's one leg of diversification. Fixed rates, bonds, CDs, bank accounts, that's another area that we consider diversification. And then finally, real estate. Most American families who do have a positive net worth, it's because they're home equity. Those who haven't done the second and third mortgage end up having some home equity, which ends up being the largest chunk of their net worth. So as we continue on, I just really want you to get the idea that there is a way out. There is a business that's in place as a business model to teach families how to escape this issue. You will earn $2 million in your lifetime. Some of you will earn much more than that, but the average American family, each breadwinner, whether it's mom or dad, will earn $2 million in their lifetime. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. And the question is, where does all that money go? I mean, if we're struggling to pay bills and we're struggling from paycheck to paycheck and we're 3 paychecks away from bankruptcy, where does all that money go? This is where it goes. I want you to take a close look at this. 21% of your lifetime earnings will go to household and entertainment expenses. Those are legitimate. You can't get around them. Mortgage and car insurance. You can't get around those. Those are legit. Income tax. You're going to need to pay your taxes. Okay. There's no plan that's been designed yet that keeps us from paying income taxes. And that's a low interest. I mean, that's a low rate. Some people pay much more than that. If you live in California or some of these other high-tech states, you'll see much higher numbers. But this is the area on the far left that I want to talk to you about for a second. Interest on borrowed money represents 26% of your lifetime earnings. What if you could lower that by just 10%? Look at what a difference that would make. That would probably fund your entire retirement. So we want to teach people strategies that can help them in these areas where it's pretty clear you're just unfamiliar with. So where do we get the education if it's not in our schools? Family and friends teach us. School teaches about economics. And the insurance salesman, poor guy, they're good at selling insurance, but not so good at teaching us the basics of money, right? I mean, we can just look at the type of policies most people own and realize that the insurance guy's good at selling insurance. The stockbroker's good at selling stocks. The banker's good at opening up bank accounts and selling you on what they sell. There really doesn't seem to be an unbiased advocate in the marketplace until Network Solutions. And ultimately, that's the role we play. People ask me quite a bit, what makes you different than some of the other large financial firms out there? And that's really the difference. We work for the client. Ultimately, Network Solutions is about providing solutions and strategies to build net worth for families. And we simply go to the industry, reach into the shelves of the industry to grab the best products and bring them back to the family to pull the trigger and make the right decisions. And so that's one of the great benefits of frankly working with a firm like ours or one of our advisors. Take a look at this. The CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, all these great financial networks today have all these pundits out there talking about finances and how they work. And down here at the bottom, you see Donald Trump there. Of course, we all know who that is. He's running for president. And that Robert Kiyosaki there in the middle wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a fabulous read. I highly recommend that book. These two men, Mr. Kiyosaki and Donald Trump, came together, it's probably been 10 years ago now, and wrote a book, Why We Want You to Be Rich. Now, you may ask yourself, why would two men who have already made it care about writing a book about that? Well, I can tell you I read the book, and I recommended it to lots of people, and I recommend it to you on the phone today. America's a better place when everybody's thinking prosperously, when everybody's thinking about advancing the ball down the field, when everyone's thinking about growing the pie, growing the economy, when you and I on the phone are thinking about owning a business, running a business, growing the economy, America's a much better place. And so that book's fantastic. Trump says, this is a nice quote, the entitlement mentality is a monster problem. Think about that. You and I know that's the case. We've got too many folks out there that think they're entitled to something, when in reality, America was built and designed on the idea of a meritocracy, where you and I earn our opportunities by putting ourselves in position, developing good habits, being mentored by folks who know. That's what this is all about. Let's talk about time for a second. A lot of people say, I just don't have the time. I mean, I've got a career going. I'm a physical therapist. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a brain surgeon. People just don't have the time. Well, there are 168 hours in a week. If you spend 60 of those working, now let's get real. Most people don't spend 60, but let's go with 60. There's 108 hours left. Well, if you sleep 7 hours a night times 7 days, that's 49 hours. So now we're left with 50 hours between workaholic at 60 and how many of you really get 7 hours of sleep? Okay, so we're overestimating each of these categories, what leaves us still with 50 plus hours left per week. What are we doing with those 50 hours? I want to challenge you on the phone to take those 50 hours and let us help you build a business. Let us help you build your family's net worth. Let us teach you with those hours how money works. We put this real wordy slide up here for a very important reason. I hate wordy slides, but this one's important. J.P. Morgan is the author of this, and we all know we should have a savings account. We all know we should save money, but I want you to think about it for different reasons. Your savings, believe it or not, affects the way you stand, the way you walk, the tone of your voice. In short, your physical well-being and self-confidence. A man without savings is always running. He must take the first job offered, or nearly so. He sits nervously on life's chair because any small emergency throws him into the hands of others. Think about savings in those terms. That's a reality, okay? That's not a financial planner saying you ought to set up a savings account. That's not your grandmother saying, hey, make sure you have some money set aside for a rainy day. That's the reality of a man who knows what it means to not have savings, to not have money set aside. That is one of the great blessings that we get to see every day in our business. We get to see men and women set up this reassuring, self-confident building savings plans. I've long been an advocate of getting started. General Patton, General George Patton said, an imperfect plan violently executed today is far better than a perfect plan executed 30 days from today. Now, he was talking about war, he was talking about strategy, but I'll tell you, you could take that same thing to do with the habit of saving money. And I want you to think that way. It's just imperative that you get yourself in a position where you're not sitting nervously on life's chair, thrown into the hands of others with any small emergency. Now, let's talk about opportunity. Some of you on the phone are smart enough to know that if there's good money to be made here, you'd like to take a look. Well, this is, in my opinion, the greatest opportunity that's in front of a Net Worth Solutions advisor today. The great baby boomer represents 78 million Americans. There's only 300 plus million Americans out there. So we're talking roughly 28% of the entire American population is in the retirement zone. For the next 18 years, it's been happening for a while, so it's probably 12 years now. For the next 12 years, 10,000 baby boomers a day are retiring. Now, if that's not an opportunity, think about it. They're retiring. They've already got 401ks. They've already got savings plans. They need savings plans. They would like to have their savings plans looked at. They need those savings plans addressed. They've got maybe a deficiency. Bottom line is, when you retire, that's when you reposition assets for the long haul. That's when you need to move to safety. That's when you start planning for the long term without any more risk. Well, as a Net Worth Solutions advisor, you are licensed to be in the perfect position to get between 78 million Americans. Imagine it. You build a branch office. You become a branch manager over the next 6 months. You hire yourself a couple of advisors that we help you train, and now you're in a position to really make a difference here. And making a difference here is also making big money. They need planning, they need preparation, and they need to know what to do. And of course, you, if you're with us, are prepared to help. Let's talk about how we help them. This is one of the things I'm most proud about Net Worth Solutions. A whole room full of financial advisors coming from different parts of the industry got together. It's almost been, 15 years ago now. Got in a room and said, all right, nobody in the industry is addressing the needs of every family. You've got folks aimed at the rich. You've got folks aimed at the bankruptcies, but nobody's really in a position to help people that are rich all the way down to the bankruptcies. There's no system in place to address people where they are, no matter where they are. And so I was in the room, we got together and said, okay, it starts with building and protecting net worth. So if we were going to capture data that helped the family reveal their net worth so we knew their position, and actually make plans and strategies to grow net worth, how would we capture that data? Whether they were on the verge of bankruptcy or whether on the verge of winning the lottery. No matter where they were in the net worth spectrum, how could we help them? Well, this is the byproduct of that meeting. This meeting lasted several days, and out of it came the confidential net worth analysis. This is ultimately 4 steps that we take every family through, and we do it at no cost. We are firm believers in this company that the service and the good we do by educating families is more important than charging a fee for the good advice. Now, if they decide to do business with us, we get paid, and the industry pays us. But the most important thing, the focal point of what we do, is to educate the family. Once they're educated, they take action. So we gather the information, we analyze and research it. We then come back and make recommendations and hopefully implement, because again, implementing is where action takes place. So the 4 steps, here they are. Ultimately, we deal with cash flow management. What's happening with all the money coming in? If you've got an income, where does it all go? If most families are spending more than they earn, let's figure out why. And this can be a very revealing process. We talk to every family we sit with about the difference between active and passive money. Active money is ultimately you're out working to make a living, okay? Everybody should have active money. Then there's passive money, where your money's actually earning income while you're at work. You've got your money in the market, you've got your money in protected growth areas. Passive income is the way to build wealth, and so we want to teach you how to do that. The wealthy are well employed, and they employ their money well. Cute quote, but you understand the point. Number 2, debt management. We call it liability because it just sounds fancy, but ultimately we're talking about debt. We want to understand credit card debt, mortgage debt, car debt. How many mortgages do you have on the house? I really dislike the idea that as a lending industry, they figured out how to get you a third mortgage. I mean, how crazy is this? First, second, third mortgages are eating up your net worth, they're eating up your equity. We want to understand the liability management and point you in the right direction to help you there. Now, here's a tip. This is something you can take right to the bank. Borrow on appreciating assets. There's such a thing as good debt. Your first mortgage is good debt. The second, third mortgage are, in my opinion, a little more risky, okay? But the first mortgage is good debt because the asset will appreciate over time. There's just no time in history other than about an 18-month period where the assets did not appreciate, the real estate assets. So borrow on appreciating assets, okay? Use the bank's money to get assets that appreciate, but pay cash for depreciating assets. And we've got pictures there, cars, boats, sea-doos, whatever. But make sure you pay cash for things that decrease in value. Number 3, investment strategies. We want to talk to you about what your stockbroker makes his living doing. The rule of 72, dollar cost averaging, diversification, and building net worth through leverage. This is really the stockbroker category. One of the things that I really love about what we do for families is we represent in one advisor relationship all of the areas that you've probably used 4 advisors for in the past: the banker, the insurance man, the stockbroker, and maybe the know-it-all relative who's trying their best to help you. But in one relationship, if we do the net worth analysis, you get it all covered in a very thorough and comprehensive way. So what is the rule of 72? Let's talk about it for a second. This is a brilliant Einstein-level information that is real easy to follow. You take the number 72, you take the interest rate you're earning at the bank, or maybe it's in a bond or wherever. You've got to do some interest projections if you're going to make investment decisions. So you can project 12, 8, 6, 4. Those are the analogies we're using here. Let's just take 4. So if you take 72 and divide it by 4, that gives you the number of years it takes for the money to double. So if you're starting with $100,000, for let's say in a retirement account, if you're earning only 4%, you're going to get 2 doubles between the age of 29 and 65. It's going to go from 100 to 200 to 400. That's not enough doubles. But what if you earn 12%, okay? It's hard to get that anymore, but let's just, for the sake of comparison, look at 12. So you take 72 and you divide it by 12. And you can see there every 6 years the money doubles. So by the age of 65, if you were earning 12%, you're at 6.4 million versus 400,000. I mean, that's a tremendous difference, right? Just same amount of money, but the growth through compounding interest was crazy. So the rule of 72 really matters when you're doing some forecasting and some planning. People talk about keeping the money in their mattress and keeping the money in a bank account. Maybe that's not the best idea. Let's say your bank's paying today 1%. Now, no banks are paying 1%, but let's just go because it's easier to do the math. Rule of 72 at 1%, every 72 years the money would double. And of course, that won't work at all. So there's Einstein. The most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. You'll notice there he doesn't say the theory of relativity or law of gravity or anything about quantum physics. The most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. Now that same exact power works against you with credit cards. The only difference is credit card has a limit. The credit card industry is at least regulated by limits where you cannot harm yourself but up to $5,000 or $3,000, or some of you got $20,000 limits, but most families have a $5,000 to $8,000 limit. That's what the average credit card limit is. Okay, final step, and I like to think of it as a stool with 4 legs. These 4 steps are what we want to take you through so you can build net worth in a real stable way. Cash flow management, liability management, investment strategies, and finally, number 4, retirement planning. It's very important that no matter how old you are, you think about how much will I need to retire. And most retirement planning deals with tax strategy. And so let's do a quick analogy on taxes. If you take $1 and double it 20 times, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, go all the way just 20 times. And you can take your little adding machine when we get off the phone to do this, and it works nicely. $20 times is 1,048,576. It's hard to imagine, but that's literally it. Take it and double it 20 times, you'll get 1,048,000. Now, every time we double, what I'd like you to do now is pay taxes. So now we're going to show you what happens with taxes. You're going to go from 1 to 2, from 2 to 4, from 4 to 8, and each time you're going to pay taxes. Let's see what happens to the money. Shocking. So you tell me, in retirement planning, how important is tax treatment? And the Internal Revenue Code deals with this. And for people who are in the know, the 3%ers, they understand clearly that tax favored is better than taxable. Tax deferred is better than taxable. And so as a Network Solutions advisor, we walk families through exactly what they can do to improve that scenario. The number one enemy to your wealth, besides procrastination, is taxation. No doubt about it. Okay, this is a slide that it always comes out in a little small print because there's too many numbers on this slide, but I just want to review with you what's on this slide. We basically have a young man who decided to start saving at age 16, and just for the first 10 years of his life, saved the money he made at his job, okay? $3,000 a year for 10 years. So basically, he saved a total of, looks like, $36,000 over the course of 10 years. Or it's 30,000. Excuse me, the print's so small I can't even see it. So $30,000, 10 years times 3,000 is $30,000. That money growing over that lifetime, all the way through to retirement, is $1,019,000. And I think we projected there an 8% rate of return, which is really doable today. There's all sorts of products out there you can get an 8% return on, and we can show you those. Let's take this same young man and decide, like most folks, I can't save any money, I'm too young, I'll wait till I'm older. Let's wait till he's age 26 to start saving. Well, now he saves for 15 years, not 10, and so he saved a few more bucks. I think it's $45,000 there. So over his lifetime, all the way through to retirement, it's $600,000 versus the $1,019,000. Not only did he save more, but it could not grow enough. He lost those early years of compounding interest. And so you can see from this slide the power of getting started early. Now, you can't start at 16 because everybody on the phone's over 16. We can't hire you, work with you, or even engage you as a client till you're at least 18. But you get the point. Starting earlier is better than starting late. Let's talk about our business for a minute. We are real serious about hiring what we call the ideal advisor. And I'll tell you what that is. That's somebody with high character. That's somebody who's got ambition and merit and good habits, and they would like to change things in their personal life. They would really like to get things going. They probably are already employed somewhere else, but would like to take a few hours a week, set aside, and let us train you on this business. Once you're trained, you got a choice to go full-time with us. Most folks are only part-time for about 6 months. But ultimately, we are very interested in sitting down with folks, interviewing them to be advisors. We are rapidly expanding. We as a company are licensed in all 50 states. We have the best providers in the financial services industry at our disposal. We need more advisors. There's way too many families to get to, way too many baby boomers that need our help. And so it's real important to us that we establish a win-win relationship with both the client and the advisor. So as a company, we've set it up where clients win through our confidential net worth analysis. It's unbiased. It's advocate approach to financial planning. And then, of course, our advisors win by being compensated, handsomely compensated, for actually helping families win. Another huge component of what we do with our advisors is we have taken a page out of the book of recognition. We know that most of the great people in America today are not recognized for the great things they do at the workplace. That's not going to happen here. We recognize every major and minor accomplishment that occurs in an advisor's career with us. We make their family a big part of what we do. We make their spouse, their children a big part of what we do. It's very, very important to us that the culture here is helping families build net worth. And those families start with our advisors. And so we do hand out Rolex watches. We do, once you make $250,000 a year, put you in what we call our inner circle, where you'll see our advisors with the nice blazer that's got our Target logo on the lapel. We also hand out championship rings. These are designed by the same company that builds the Super Bowl, World Series, and NBA championship rings. These are serious championship rings. We hand that out at $100,000 and add diamonds all the way around as you earn additional hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've got some out there with 10 diamonds in their ring, and you have to earn it in a 12-month period in order to get the new diamond. So ask yourself, are you recognized for what you do where you work today? Are you paid what you're worth? I know the answers to the questions, and you do too, but I just want you to think about, these are things most people don't actually think about. Is your boss your role model for success? And ultimately, what's going to change? I want to talk to you about exactly what happens next. It's important for you to understand, to be affiliated with us at Network Solutions, we have to do a background check. Okay? We're running a serious business here. We've got to know who's out there. We've got to know who's working with us. And so we charge a fee to get started with us. We give you access to our system. We give you access to our network analysis tool, the proprietary document that I showed you earlier with the 4 steps. We teach you how to use that, which I consider to be very valuable to you personally. We order your business cards for you so that they look perfect from the company. We also order you a team shirt that you'll wear at our company training events and maybe even on the trips that you'll qualify to go on. There are no franchise fees. We don't charge royalties, nothing like that. You do not have to have experience in financial services to work with us. We're going to teach you all that you need to know to be successful here. We do the training. And of course, that's a little, no product inventory is a little tribute to the network marketing world, who requires you to buy all these startup kits and starter kits and get started kits and sample kits to get going. Of course, in financial services, where a license is required, you cannot get involved in all that nonsense. So you won't be doing those type of businesses if you're getting a license to actually help folks with their financial life. Here's what I'd like you to do next. Frank's going to come back on and talk to you about your next steps, but you're going to be sent out an evaluation card. Immediately following today's webinar, it's going to be sent right to you. It's form fillable, which means when you open it up, you can actually type right on it. When you close it out, it gets sent right back to our headquarters. We're interested in a couple things on that card, okay? We're interested in knowing what level of interest you have in either working with us or becoming a client. We have zero interest in chasing you around, okay? This is either a fit and the timing's right for you to take a look, or it's not. And we'll both know it when we get together. You'll actually have to have what they call a hiring interview. Once we receive the card back, it gives us some insight into what your interest level is. We then follow up with one of our quality branch managers, one of our advisors. They call you, they set up an interview. That needs to be done in the next 2 days so that they can pick up with where we left off with the presentation. Your feedback on that card, no matter what your interest level is important to us as a company. So like Frank mentioned earlier, we do this presentation in our offices live every single week. So you in your local city and town could attend this same presentation live and talk to one of our advisors in person. We wanted to do this as a special occasion today as a webinar. Frank had asked me to conduct this today. So I have nothing further from a content standpoint. Frank, I'll turn the time back over to you. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today.
Thank you so much, James. That was wonderful. 12 years ago, I won a contest to sit knee to knee with James after one of these presentations. And I would have never been where I'm at today if I didn't follow up that next day with my friend and my advisor today. This business is not nonprofit. It takes work and a willingness to follow a great system. This business is full-time, part-time, but not anytime. So I encourage you to get to the specifics and the details of this great system. And with this feedback form, go back to that next slide, write down some comments on there what impressed you the most today. And if there's additional questions, check them off with cash flow management or the 4 steps of how money works. I want to thank you all for being on this great presentation today, and I hope to meet you one day. Thank you very much.